Welcome back to another UK film review interview. I'm very excited to say that today I'm joined by Alexander Arnold, star of Delivery Run. A very warm welcome, Alexander. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks so much. Pleasure being here.
So I already interviewed Joey a few days ago, which was great, and I really love this film, and I
Mm.
think it's just insane amounts of fun. It's just so enjoyable, and
Yeah.
uh, I think that your performance in the film plays a huge role in just how engaging and how entertaining this film is. I think it's
Thanks.
an incredibly strong performance. So just to start, I was going to ask, could you possibly describe the character of Lee for us? Not so much the plot of the film, but just kind of what kind of guy we're watching on screen.
Yeah, so Lee, first and foremost, he's a food delivery courier. So a bit like a kind of delivery Uber Eats kind of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, he lives in Nizwa, Minnesota. So a bit of a icy, snowy backdrop. And yeah, he lives alone, but he's got his trusty companion Reggie, who's a fantastic goldfish who he looks after. Or he looks after him. Who knows? But yeah, so I guess Lee's a bit yeah, he doesn't really have many friends. He's a bit of a loner, but he's got big ambitions. He wants to own a food truck one day, start making his own things, not be the guy who delivers the food, be the one who's actually making it. Um, but, in reality, he's sort of saddled with debt and he owes quite a large sum of money to a local gangster. And so he has to find, get his way out. So yeah, I don't want to give too much of the. Don't know if
Yeah.
that gives too much of the plot away,
No,
or if
no,
that is enough of an
that,
answer, really.
that's absolutely perfect. That is perfect. I mean,
Lovely,
he's an incredibly entertaining character, and you've got a good performance from Reggie the goldfish as well, along with you.
tremendous, yeah.
Yeah. And yes, a very entertaining character indeed. And so with Joey, I spoke a lot about Spielberg's Duel and its sort of clear
Yeah.
influences on this movie. I was wondering when you were trying to sort of identify this character and craft him with Joey from the ground up. And really get into the position where you feel comfortable, like I know this character. Did
Hmm.
you look to any classic films or classic performances like Dennis Weaver in Duel? um and were there any big performances that you used at all for guidance or inspiration, or did everything just come completely naturally to you?
No, I'm sure it didn't come completely naturally to me at all. But I watched Duel before I even read this film, so I could see the kind of clear influence that it had on it. I think for just the to get to know the kind of the area of like where it is in America. Like Fargo is obviously a great kind of cinematic kind of reference point, I guess. Um, you know, there are some Minnesotaisms in this film by the way that people talk and stuff, which you'll be able to see. I don't know though, for me personally, I mean, it's always like I always approach roles differently. I've never got like a rigid way of how I approach stuff. Like I didn't go to drama school, so I suppose I've got a bit of a autodidactic kind of way of approaching stuff in that regard. But no, I made sure like my accent didn't get in the way of me acting. Like I kept the accent kind of going when we were filming and stuff, just because it was one less thing to worry about, and I could
Mm.
just really start using my instincts, and not to be in my head. If I'm thinking about how I say a line, like it's just gonna not. I'm not fully committing to like what's actually going on in the scene. So that's like that was sort of I guess an important thing to kind of get out of the way,
Yeah.
and all the things like the way the character dresses and what have you were I mean, Joey had quite a big impact in that. The jacket I wear, I remember he bought that and tried it on, and the hat and all those kind of things, and they really help inform the character. And yeah, did a bit of my backstory just to kind of feel my way into it because we're really just one moment, really. I mean, probably quite a significant moment in this person's life story. So, you need to really know where you've come from, and so that's important. But yeah, I don't have a one way of doing things, and
Yeah,
I try to be honest, I try to rely a lot on my instinct and what's given to me, you know.
absolutely. Um, oh,
Yeah, like what's I don't like to sort of craft a role like already in my head, that somebody else is going to turn up in the scene, another actor, and you kind of got to go with what they're doing as well. So yeah,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it seems that both you and Joey have this kind of instinct, this inclination to just go, a lot of things by instinct, which, I think shows. I mean, there's so much of this film which is playing with lots of different ideas. And I like the fact that you mentioned Fargo, because Fargo is one of my top favorite films. And while I was watching, I
yeah,
was thinking about Fargo a lot. Um, do
it's
you,
great.
yeah, Fargo's the best. And certainly, the cop character in this film is feels very, very Fargo. And
Yeah,
in terms of how you're, crafting your character, you say you keep was the accent a way of just maintaining one thing so that psychologically you could, go elsewhere and find the character in different ways. Like the accent was something that was locked down throughout production, and then that was a way of like building the character even more. Then,
yeah, I guess so. But it's yeah, I guess that's right. It's well, it's not one thing or the other really. I think it's more just yeah, the one thing informs the other. Like the accent obviously dictates certain mannerisms and different things like that. So it's
yeah,
one part of the character, but yes, fundamentally, like I wanted to. There's a lot of feelings that are kind of like brought to the surface in this role, and there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear,
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess, quite primal kind of emotion. So that was really important for this film, I thought, for the level of intensity that we wanted to kind of achieve with this. So anything that gets me out of my own way and really allowing me to just sort of focus on that kind of stuff was what was important for me.
yeah.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
So you guys shot this movie in Finland, is that right? You shot in Finland, and
yeah, we shot a lot of it in Lapland. Yeah,
yeah,
so
right,
crazy
and
different. Yeah,
the whole environment of the film is just so cool, and it's an interesting way to frame this film, particularly when you compare it to something like Duel, which is just such a sort of dry, clear, like it's just a road, it's just two vehicles. Whereas with the snow, you have this added threat and this added,
mm.
authenticity to the environment. I was wondering, did working in sort of more extreme weather conditions impact your performance in any way?
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to really suspend your imagination too much when you're like actually in snowy, icy kind of landscape. So, and that is so crucial for like where the film's set and everything. So that was fantastic. That just obviously gets you right in there. Um, yeah, I yeah, it was cold, it was chilly sometimes, so that plays into it as well. Um, so yeah, all of those kind of things really help you kind of immerse into the
Mm,
sort of
mm.
given circumstance. So yeah, all of that really helped. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. And on top of the location, I've spoken a lot about the fact that there's this sort of incredible sense of spectacle in this film with and how
Yeah.
refreshing it is to see proper, car chases, sort of. done properly, and these, and it's exciting and it feels real. And
Yeah.
I was wondering, how was it for you acting within the kind of overwhelming machinery and sort of scale of how this film is coordinated? And did you find that you had to ever make your performance bigger and emphasize more to sort of match with this kind of extreme spectacle?
I think so. There was a lot of times where I was just kind of acting alone, so I had to kind of quite use
Mm,
my imagination quite a few times, well, quite a lot, to kind of really imagine what was going on with the
yeah,
character. But yeah, there were a lot of explosions and car chases and things like that. So,
yeah,
so yeah, that was and real spectacles, as you say.
yeah.
So I don't think I really could play it any louder than that, really. And yeah, and that really helped my performance. I remember we there's a scene where there's an explosion, which Lee kind of sees in the mirror. Um, and I think there was a point in the filming where already so much stuff had happened, like to the character, and I think like me and Joey agreed, like I think maybe he would just be kind of not as like, oh my God. I think it would be more like, okay, right, another thing, it's important to try and note there's like those there's so much that you can eat. I mean, you don't have to overplay things really. There's so
Mm,
much that the audience can implant on your facial reactions really,
yeah,
which can be so subtle, as long as you're thinking it and everything. So yeah, I don't think I could. I don't know. I don't know if I might be overplaying it sometimes, but I think there was so much going on that it was just there.
yeah. No, and I think you managed to just constantly convey the sort of the right level of just nervous energy, and then you have these great, petrified facial expressions. But I also, like you say, I also really like the fact that the audience kind of gets that this is just like a regular guy who's always, one step behind. He's always on the back foot, and he's just like so clearly just fed up with being chased. And this element of
Yeah,
just being like a tired character, who's
yeah,
also almost emotionally falling back on his like goldfish who he has next to him, which is just such a fun dramatic conceit, is something I really loved. I was
brilliant.
wondering, as you say, presumably for a lot of the production of this film, you are acting alone. I mean, you are in a car on your own, and as you say, you're having to imagine things. Um,
Yeah.
how much? Well, first of all, out of interest, how much of this, if any, how much of the production actually required you to be driving, or was that not needed?
I wish I could say all of it, but no, very little. Like, a lot of it was, I guess, because we're on a small budget, of course, and we're quite specific about moments that we wanted to capture, like inside the car.
Mm.
Yeah, we had a rider thing, where the car sits on and is kind of towed along. I can drive myself, but yeah, I think it would have added a bit of an added complication to the
Yeah,
proceedings. Really. I think I did get to just drive it a little bit, just
yeah,
to see what the car was like.
yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, so that was good, but had quite a high clutch, if I remember.
Oh, right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, did a bit of drive, but no, that was down to someone else doing a lot of the kind of like crazy
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's interesting because I mean, there's probably an art to car acting, particularly when you're not driving, because you're having to sort of balance the idea that there's a functional, practical side, where the
mm,
characters, their motivation is, well, I'm driving, I'm trying to get away, but you're also trying to maintain the specificity of your characterization and this constant the nervousness and also the humor of your character. Um, I was wondering when you were preparing, like, sort of how do you go about balancing those styles of acting, the very functional, I'm driving a car, with the more psychological, I want to sort of convey what I'm thinking right now and feeling.
Well, I think you can't really preempt things, really. You should be, as long as you're listening, and listening isn't just like listening to another person. It's also like listening to, what I mean is like generally taking in the given circumstance and really
Mm.
engaging in that and fully committing to it and concentrating. Um, but generally, I mean, yeah, I mean, the more functional things like driving and stuff, it is you should treat each moment the same with the same level of importance as something where you're being chased by a snowplow.
Yeah,
The level of intensity, um, obviously the level of how much it takes out of you and stuff is different, but each moment should be like I think the same and require the same level of like concentration and listening skills. You know, um, yeah, I think you can't really treat one moment more important than the other in that regard. So there might be certain things that are, but then again, some things are quite simple, and you are just walking from one place to another. But you need to have the thoughts of the character in your head,
yeah,
and you need to really do those things,
yeah,
to make it come across as real. So. But yeah, without being too pretentious, I guess, yeah, I think each moment is important and
yeah,
requires some of like concentration, really. So I never really plotted it out as in like, oh, this is going to be the really kind of like draining bit, and this is, oh, great, I could just do a bit of, I'm just walking today and stuff. I try and,
yeah.
make everything as important as everything else, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, it does make sense. So
Yeah.
so how was your collaboration like with Joey? And was there ever like a note or a conversation you had with Joey that sort of changed your perception of the character at all, or built upon your perception of the character?
Well, I think my forms of like judgment of the character was sort of like just kind of from what I read in the screenplay, really. And I really connected to just this story of this quite simple story, really, of this, as you say, this kind of average Joe kind
Hmm.
of guy. You know, obviously petrified and scared of this snowplow truck driver, but also just, he's trying to pay his bills and and those are the things that are quite scary for a lot of people as well. There's a lot of jump scares and stuff in this, but it's also like people are like this every day trying to survive and
Yeah,
you know um, survive in a sort of a system that's against them, really.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I kind of connected to that. But yeah, my Joey's incredible though, because he's so like he's incredibly ambitious and fires off on all cylinders and really interested in all aspects of the filmmaking process, not just being a writer and a director, but a producer and really, yeah, driving the film forward in all ways.
yeah,
So I think maybe, yeah, I think that uh, what's the word? Kind of, I want to say relentlessness, but not that sounds bad. But his of all for like his drive, I guess maybe inspired a bit of me for Lee.
yeah.
His never give up kind of attitude, really. So maybe
Right.
there's quite a bit of a Joey
Yeah.
in Lee, you know.
That's interesting. And yeah, I like the fact that you say about the fact that this can be interpreted as a character who's um being screwed over by the system, and the system he's operating in, and it's just this demonstration of the desperation that people have to go through. And I think that's interesting because there's a lot of through that, I think there's a lot of compassion in this performance. And I was also going to say that it's a very suspenseful film, but it's also a very
Mm,
funny film in some parts. But I think through what you're talking about this empathy for a very real feeling person, we're never we're never really like laughing at this character. We empathize with this character, and then any moments of real successful humor in the film actually come from you and your sort of the behavioral things you're doing, and in a way the jokes you're making instead of haha, laughing at this character. And
Yeah.
how do you find balancing the comic relief and the humor with also maintaining there is a continuous threat here in this film and that feels real?
Well, that's always what I find quite fascinating, isn't it? When something is quite something can be funny one moment and then it's like quite shocking the next. And
Yeah,
I think that plays out in this film quite a few times. Um, so I mean, really, it's obviously like it's the director's kind of medium
mm,
film, and the way this has been cut together by Joey, he's really found those moments as well. Um, through the filming process and has really crafted those moments really nicely for the sort of suspension and the kind of comic timing of it. I mean, I think just by default try and find things that are funny in otherwise maybe quite serious contexts. Um, I think that's maybe just like my outlook in life a little bit, and plays into me as an actor. So whether that's good or not, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, like there's definitely like some moments where, he's falling over and saying the wrong thing
yeah,
at the wrong time and things like that. But aren't we all? Aren't
yeah,
we all kind of,
absolutely.
bumbling
Yeah,
through life?
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. And me and Joey spoke a little bit about like, I mean, like superhero films. Well, I said about how, this is different from your a lot of your big blockbusters these days because there's the whole Die Hard argument about, you have a protagonist who's more enjoyable because he seems like a relatively, normal guy. They don't have these
yeah,
superpowers and these strengths, and therefore the audience can project themselves onto the character much more, and I think that's really effective. And another sort of tone related question is that at the halfway mark of the movie there is this sudden, I would say there's this sudden shift into the sort of horror house sort of slasher element of the film where you're in the house, and things in terms of genre go a lot more into conventional horror than sort of action thriller territory, and then
mm.
it sort of goes back again. And I like the fact that the film is experimenting in those different zones. How did you feel compelled to modulate your performance to account for this sort of change in genre and scenario, or is a scene like that to you completely the same and the approach completely the same as like the first scene, for instance, with the gangster and the goldfish?
Um, I think, yeah, I'm when I'm doing something, I'm really just thinking about the character, and I'm not. I think those things are kind of outside of my control. Like, I think they're down to the sort of director and the writer, really, I guess. So I'm sort of approaching it as what am I trying to do in the scene, and what do I want? Um,
Yeah,
so I guess I do approach it in that sort of range. I wish that was a more fun answer,
no,
but
no, no,
yeah,
that,
that's probably what I'm doing. But I see what you're saying. Yeah, there is I mean, this film, I wouldn't say it's like. I mean, it's there. There's definitely horror elements to it, and I guess it is a horror, but it's more for me. It's like adjacent to horror. There's like obviously an action element to it. There
mm,
are some comedic bits to it too, and it's a bit of a thriller overall, I suppose.
yeah,
But it's got that kind of like structure of like a horror. Um, but yeah, it's interesting just the different turning points in this film, I think, as well. And really trying to I guess you can't not be conscious of those as an actor of knowing
yeah,
where they kind of come in and stuff so
yeah.
you know yeah
I mean, yeah, I love that this film has all these different elements mixing together, and it does them all so nicely. And it also, I would say, provides a lot to all kinds of movie viewers who are after, lots of different things from a film like this, which yeah, I think is great. And
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
sort of final question, what was your favorite moment on set, or one of your favorite moments on set?
One of my favorite moments on set. Well, as I say, it was quite like it wasn't lonely because I had like Joey and the crew and everyone was so lovely. But there was the rare chance of getting to act with someone
Yeah,
else, which was fun. Yeah, all those scenes with like Nadine and Arthur, who right at the beginning of the film, sort of bully me into
yeah,
submission. That was actually quite fun. Um, so that was great, and those guys just really just came in and just really smashed it. Like it was so great to work with. Um, there was yeah, I remember there was after the kind of relentless kind of endurance of this film. I remember we him in sort of acting it. I remember there was a scene that I think is like in the trailer actually, where I talked to Lee talks to Nathan, the deputy, about how he's had this snowplow truck driver
yeah,
kind of like trying to run him off the road, and I remember actually feeling quite like exhausted that day, like mentally, and I was just like, I don't think I can really. Um, act this. I think this was generally like how I felt the way I was sort of doing it in that scene. So that was kind of a surreal moment because I was just like I almost surrendered to the moment. I was like, oh, I can't do anything else, so
yeah,
I'm just gonna play it like this. And lo and behold, my energy was quite low, and so I just but I guess that's what you would be like in that situation as well, a
yeah,
little bit. Like you would be absolutely depleted.
yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know about fun necessarily on that one,
No, but
but
that's
it
really
was
interesting. That's really interesting. I
yeah,
think that comes across, and that's really perfect for the character.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah. Well, I really really enjoyed this movie, and I thought your performance was great. So congratulations
Thank you.
on everything. Um,
Thanks so
and
much.
yes, well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. It's been great.
Thanks, James. Nice one.
And I should also say, so Delivery Run, as of recording this, actually comes out today, the 6th of October, on digital from Play On Pictures. Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much, Alexander.
Thanks. Cheers.